doesn't always record very well. So tonight what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about Iran. And I'm going to hopefully share my desktop somehow. At the whiteboard. Let's see. Well, I think here, there's one. Screen share is what I'm talking about. Okay, I think I've got it now. Maybe, hopefully, I can come right here. I know you can see this on Camtasia, but I hope I'm doing it right on Jigsaw. Okay, so I'm about to post this news announcement right here. Our next unit is Iran, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about the country of Iran. This news announcement, you'll see this. Well, actually, I could post it today. Let me go ahead and do that while I'm thinking about it. I think Iranians here in the United States get a little bit of a bad rap. And the reason I say this is because there's some difficult history between the people of Iran, or the Iranian government, not so much the people of Iran, but the Iranian government and the United States. As you probably remember from the revolutionary components chart that we did, there was a major religious revolution back in 1979. And this was in direct response to something that was happening not only in the Middle East, but something that was happening in a kind of widespread. And the United States got involved in it. Jimmy Carter was president at the time. And the Shah of Iran became ill, and he had cancer and had been to some locations. The Shah was having trouble with his own people in Iran. Some people, there was a conservative movement in Iran that was starting to kind of bustle up, and a lot of people felt that the Shah was not religious enough. And religious, when I speak about religion in Iran, I'm talking about Islam. People felt like the Shah had really distanced himself from the basic tenets of Islam. And that was something that they wanted to see return. And they felt like by getting that power back, that they could make Iran the place that they had always intended it to be. The Shah was not somebody who was particularly democratic with his people, maybe a little more so than the Ayatollah Khomeini, but certainly not. He was really much more of a dictator, and people. That's kind of how they got the people to even consider a revolution. The Iranian people to consider a revolution. So this happened back in 1979, and how the United States got involved was Iran. The United States helped the Shah. The Shah came over to the United States, got treatment at one of the hospitals at the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, and this really sparked outrage with the conservative group that was trying to gain power from the Shah. The Shah's dying at this time. He had cancer, and he was not going to survive it. And a lot of people in the United States thought that, the United States should have stayed out of it. We shouldn't have allowed the Shah to come over here and receive treatment. But our president at that time did. And in response to that, there were hostages taken, American hostages taken in the revolution. and it became known as the Iranian hostage crisis here in the United States. And Iran kept several of our American citizens in captivity in Iran for more than a year. In fact, Jimmy Carter was running for president at the time, re-election, to try and serve a second term. That is when Ronald Reagan began his campaign, and it wasn't until the moment, the hour that Ronald Reagan swore in as president that Iran released the hostages from Iran. In fact, at that time, Ronald Reagan's being sworn in as president, and the hostages are getting on the plane to come back to the United States after a year of being held in captivity. Okay, so that was a clear message that was sent. So there's some bad blood. In fact, Iran called the United States, and when I say Iran, I mean this conservative group that came into power, this religious theocratic group that came into power. They really hated the policies and the culture to an extent of Americans. And so they even called America the Great Satan. Okay? So, but what does that mean for the Iranian people? You know, here's the thing. Most of the time, the Iranians, they're just everyday Joes like we are. They're going to work. They're trying to build a family. They're trying to feed their kids. And they are just regular folks. And they are not the decision makers, right? Of who gets to do what. And who is in power. They don't have any say so, just like we don't. I mean, we can say what we want to say, but any of you who are deciding to maybe go into politics, I think you'll find out very quickly that it's a hard road to hoe. It's not very easy, or it's very difficult to maneuver and get real change. It's possible, but it's very difficult. Okay, so where am I leading up to this? Well, right here, okay? So here's our news announcement for this week. Are Iranians any different than we are? Your first answer to that may be, yeah. But check this out, okay? This is the Persian New Year's table. It's set for, it's a new year, so it's set for spring. And when I saw this is a little bit, this article and this, news report from NPR, I think it is a little bit old, but when I saw this, I thought to myself, first thing I thought was how we were celebrating Easter. What do? We have flowers on the table, spring flowers, and in this particular case, Hefstein is a table that is decorated with 7 items, okay, 7 being considered a lucky number. And so each item is a symbol of spring and renewal, okay? And you know what? We do the same thing. And if you click on this link right here, that's going to take you to this National Public Radio article that talks about how Iranians celebrate like us, okay? And the different items. Look at these different items, all beginning with an S, that represent spring and celebrate spring. So, do they celebrate like us, right? Are there any, bunnies hopping around here or Easter eggs? No, but honestly, it is, we have something very similar where we do have rituals. The Easter basket, the jelly beans. And if you are Christian and right around Easter, prior to Easter, participated in Holy Week, you certainly have different traditions and rituals that you play out. So when we think about people in other cultures, particularly in this case Iranians who, maybe we have been taught or thought to say they're very different than we are. They don't understand us. They don't like us, and therefore we shouldn't like them. If you've thought about that or been taught that, I would encourage you to just take a minute and realize that, people that we deal with in other countries, most of these people, they're not the decision makers, they're not the movers and shakers, they're people just like us. Okay, do they celebrate the same way? No. But they do celebrate, and so I just thought this was interesting. Okay, so that's our news announcement for this week. Leading us right into Iran. All right, so that's our 13th unit. There's only 14 units in this course, so yay, we're almost to the end. Okay, so we're almost to the end, and what are you doing this week? Well, you're going to take this key terms quiz right here. Nothing new there. We've done it before, and it's no different. Okay, so we have an impact of the past assignment. Okay, here it is as a Word document. That's probably going to help you. It's being reviewed at the live session. And the key institutions worksheet. And I don't have that one as a Word document, so maybe I need to check and see. Don't do this Iran annotated timeline project. I took that off the schedule. And we're going to talk about Iran as using Islam as a political tool. Or Islam not just used by Iran, but anybody as a political tool. So here you will look a little more into the 1979 revolution and make some decisions and some opinions about that. Okay? All right, well, let's jump into these worksheets. Okay, well, here's the key institutions worksheet. Okay, so it's very important for you to know and understand the different powers and roles of the jurist's guardianship. Okay, so here is the political institution of Iran. Okay, a little bit different than ours. They have a supreme leader to start off with. And here are his powers, okay, listed right here. And then there's the president, okay, so here are the president's powers, and the Majlis, okay, that's the lawmaking body, okay, along with some other things, a little bit different setup. All right, so you also have a short answer question, a couple of them. The first one asks to describe two distinct sources of political legitimacy established by the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and discuss one example of how having both of those sources of political legitimacy simultaneously has led to tensions in Iran in the last 15 years. So, I've given you some possible descriptions of sources of political legitimacy right there, and some examples of tensions right down here. Examples of tensions. There is a green movement in Iran. Hopefully you've noticed that. Okay, the next question asks you to describe two measures taken by Iranian political leaders to democratize Iran's political process. Okay, here's some measures that you may want to include. Okay, and then the third question asks you to describe two ways in which Iranian political leaders have resisted democratization. Okay. And so here's some acceptable descriptions. Okay, they don't want to vet their candidates. Sharia law. Okay, and when I say describe these two ways, I'm giving you the way. So now you need to go back and describe it and tell me how it applies to Iran. Okay. All right. So we have this. Okay, so the next worksheet we have is the impact of the past worksheet. Okay, so as I mentioned before, Iran prior to the Iranian the revolution of 1979, was led by some ruling families. Okay, the first being the Safavids, that was 1501 to 1722. What were their characteristics? I have them listed right here. Their influences on the modern political system of the time, that's listed. Okay. The Qajars, that's 1794 to 1925. They were your Turkish invaders. They ruled from Tehran. They loved luxury. They fell into debt. That's who those people were. Their influences on the modern political system. They kind of scaled back on the Shiite influence. They focused more on authoritarianism and not so much on totalitarianism. They had set some foundations for secularism. Okay, so they did recognize the separation between religious and political leaders. And so the failure of the Qajars was led to a creation of a representative government. Okay, and then finally we have the Pahlavis. Okay, so this is what the last Shah of Iran, this is the family that he came from, the Pahlavis. And this family came in, overthrew the representative government. They centralized the power in the Shah. Okay, and look how it's only from the years 1925 1979, not very long at all. Centralized that power in the Shah, right? Okay, so this was part of the problem in how the conservative, religious conservative group was able to come in. They created a rentier state. Remember what that is? We learned about that in Nigeria. They contacted with the West, the secularization of Iran. Okay, so they went really far away from having anything to do with Islam and Iran, and it was very corrupt. And the Shah was very benefited a lot from the corruption and was focused on luxury. So the Pahlavis reinforced authoritarian rule, led the resistance to totalitarianism. And this last statement right here, this one right here, this increased secularization was what led to the reestablishment of theocracy. You're swinging one side too hard, right? Really, most people kind of want to live in the center, right, of that political spectrum. They don't want to be too secularized. They don't want to be, a theocracy. All right. Okay, so the Islamic Revolution and the Republic. 1979 to present. That's what's in place now. So the Shah's behavior disturbed Iran. 1979. What was his problem? What did people not like about him? Well, he's perceived as being totalitarian. Well, hello. He was there during the Cold War. I mean, his neighbor to the north, Russia, was totalitarianism. So why not? Okay. He broke the balance between the secular and religious state, secularizing Iran too much, too fast. People don't like that. People don't like change, and they certainly don't like change when it comes too fast. He had significant ties with the West, particularly the United States, that offended these Iranian nationalists. Now, you're going to have those in your country, right? And so when you start going against those nationalists, and we know what that is, that's when the bad feelings come in. And he offended the clergy, okay? The imams, okay? So the factors that brought about the revolution in 1979, well, oil prices Hello, that was a horrible time. Oil prices decreased by 10% in the late 70s, same time that consumer prices increased about 20% in Iran. And again, that's another problem when there's too much change, and it's not only about political ideologies, but hey, when I don't have any money in my pocket, oh, and there's lots of change going on, oh, now I'm really upset, okay? So I'm more likely to listen to somebody else who's telling me, well, it's the people in charge, it's their wrongdoing. That's why you should come over to our side. So that's how, things happen. Like revolutions. There was a gap in the expected satisfaction of Iranians and the actual satisfaction of Iranians. Yeah, so Iran, they're being promised one thing. The Shah's telling them, you have a great life. He has a really great life, but he's telling them, you have a great life. But what they're seeing is not so great. Okay, so that makes them ready for change. The United States put pressure on the Shah, that should be capitalized right there, to loosen his restraints on the opposition. He didn't really listen. All right, so, and I also want you to identify the following people. Okay, so Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, he was the leader of the 1979 revolution. Jimmy Carter, he was the U.S. president during the 1979 revolution. Were human rights, were a foreign policy goal of his administration. The Shah of Iran came under U.S. criticism. The Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, okay, that's the Shah of Iran, modernizing, tyrant. Wow, okay, he is a tyrant. He loosened his tight reign, which allowed Khomeini and his supporters to emerge. Ali Khamenei, he was the successor to Khomeini. He was the one that comes in. He questions the legitimacy of the theocracy. He criticizes the authoritarian rule of the clerics. He advocates for a more democratic government. Mohammad Khatami, he's the reformist who aims to end the freeze in relations between Iran and the West. And then, not to present, not Mohammed Ahmadinejad was president. He's not the president anymore. So here is your task. Okay, can you add the last leaders to finish out this chart? Okay, and if you can, then I will add some extra credit. I will allow you I'll add 10 points to a test of your choice. How about that? So if you can finish out this chart, because Mohammed Ahmadinejad is not the last president, it's not 2005 to present. So when you turn in this document, okay, just tell me, if you so choose to finish out this chart, tell me which test you want, or project, or any assignment, test, project, or assignment that you want your 10 points added to. Okay, put that in your comments, and then I'll add that extra credit. Okay? Okay, well, thank you for listening. Leave this back up right quick because I didn't keep that there very long. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, as always, just please let me know. Okay? Thank you. Y'all have a great day. One more thing before you leave. Don't leave, okay? I do want to remind you of this. The practice quiz that has been set up in the final exam. Okay? You have never seen these questions before. So I strongly encourage you to go in and take this practice exam. Okay? Because you've never seen this before and you're going to want to see it. Okay? You're going to want to do well on the final exam. All right. Thank you for listening, and have a great night.